Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Tales of the Lore Hunter is sponsored by CrookedRiverRadio.com. Crooked River Radio is an internet radio station that is live 24/7 playing rock and adult contemporary top 40 hits from the 60s through the 90s. You can find us on Live 365, Simple Radio, Roku, Radio Garden, and even Alexa, as well as our website. Come on and join us on the Crooked River.
You are entering the lair of the Folklore Hunter with Beth, Roose, and Pat Morrow. Once you pass this point, beware.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to this edition of the Lore Hunters. It's Sunday again already.
Yeah.
So, well,
Fascinating, isn't it?
This is going to be a great show.
I'm going to go dark here for a second. I got to fix something here. So
Okay.
be patient. Just be patient. We're good to. All right, now we're good to go.
Okay. So this is going to be a great, great show we have in store for you. And at the end, you'll think we're amazing, or you'll think we're cuckoo for Cocoa
Whacked
Puffs.
out.
Which one are you hoping for, Pat?
Oh, I'll take the whacked out.
Yeah, I love Cocoa Puffs, so I'm good. But today's show is, we're not really doing a cryptid, but we are doing a secret society that rules the world. So what can we be talking about? I think the Illuminati, or maybe the Bilderbergs, or maybe our NSA here in America.
I've been to
or maybe they're all in
Bilderbergs
cahoots together.
I've been to Bilderbergs
so,
before.
I'm not sure what.
I've actually been to Bilderbergs before. Isn't that in Canton?
Oh, I have no idea where they're at.
Oh, no. It's Build-A-Bear. Never mind.
Oh, Build-A-Bear, you silly thing. Yes. I actually been to Build-A-Bear too. So that was a good one. You got me on that one.
Thank you.
So
I'm here to entertain. I'll be here all week.
Oh, okay. Good job. Well, so I just, when I was looking for tidbits about the Illuminati or the Bilderbergs or our wonderful NSA, I was tripped up by a item I found that said that if you spell backwards Illuminati, so ITANIMULLI, type that into your web browser, guess where it takes you? Right to the NSA, their website.
Oh, sweet.
Sweet. So I'm leaning, after all of this research, to think they're all in cahoots. So,
Yeah.
I really never paid much attention to the Illuminati. And I do remember Brad Meltzer, his show Decoded. I love that show. I wish they hadn't taken it off the air. He had he's an author too, but he had a way of presenting things that made it simple for you to understand what he was saying. So he did a thing on the Georgia Guidestones, which we're going to talk about too, because of the recent events that happened there. So we'll be covering the Georgia Guidestones, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, and I think we should go ahead and explain the Illuminati. So we have a short clip for you that we're going to play, and Pat's going to do that now, but you're listening to Crooked River Radio for this podcast. I'm not good at saying that. You're so much better at saying that, Pat.
You're listening to the radioactive show.
No,
that's in about 6 hours. Never mind. You're listening to Tales of the Lore Hunter on Crooked River Radio.
Very good.
What if I told you that America has its own Stonehenge? These giant stones suddenly appeared on a hillside outside of all places Atlanta. in 1980. The man who had them built remains anonymous, as does the...
Who are the Bilderberg Group, and why do they meet every year? What do they talk about? And why the secrecy? Do they intend to rule the world?
I don't think this is the right video,
So
is
there,
it?
the world's power elite are gathering.
We all talk.
A man is sitting at home with the
There,
lights
that's the
turned
right
off,
one.
his
Sorry
face
about that.
illuminated by the glare from the TV screen. This guy hasn't been outside in weeks. He's obsessed, you could say possessed, by a theory that a new world order is about to make a move and get rid of a significant amount of the population. He's suddenly taken aback by a strange image on the TV, which is a public service announcement being given by both the President of the United States and the Queen of England. Before they say anything, the two put their fingers up to their foreheads at the point of their hairlines, and in unison they pull down the skin from their faces, and it's revealed that they're both actually lizard people. I knew it, thinks the guy. We are your overlords, say the Queen and the President in tandem. It's time you all knew the truth. We're guessing you guys think this is a ridiculous way to start a show, but polls have indeed revealed that something like 12 million American people believe we are ruled over by interstellar reptiles. These alien beings hiding in human suits are said to be the world's elite, and we, the general populace, are the slaves. Not everyone buys into the lizard theory, but a lot of people believe we are ruled by secret groups, such as an entity called the Illuminati and another entity called the Bilderberg Group. You don't have to be suffering from psychosis to believe this. There are a lot of rational people that think there are invisible hands pulling strings above our marionette heads. Today, we're going to take a look at these two entities, and at the end of the show, you can make up your own mind as to which organization controls the world, or if the groups are actually not as powerful as has been made out. You might also agree with our own surprising conclusion. Warning, this will not be an easy examination, but you're going to gain some knowledge that we think will benefit you. No lizards were harmed in the making of this video. Okay, so it's no secret that there are organizations on this planet whose members are sometimes rich and powerful people. That is not a theory, it's a fact. These might be secretive, such as the Freemasons, or they might be round tables of influential people that talk about issues such as global warming. The conspiracy theorists believe that these elites are machinating to create what's called a new world order, which is basically a world run by them in a totalitarian way. It might involve population control or even mind control. We the people are what they might call the herd. We buy into what they tell us. This theory is not unique, and we certainly have been called herds before by powerful leaders and social scientists. The man sometimes called the father of public relations and propaganda, one Edward Bernays, did his bit to control the public. He believed that we, the masses, were irrational, but as people that acted like herds and couldn't think for themselves, we could easily be controlled. He proved his theory to be true, too. So that's how this new world order might take over, according to some conspiracy theorists. There are differing opinions, and it's a very complex subject. Some people think the world where we're heading might be fascistic in nature and will be controlled by a big brother world government in a totalitarian manner. A man called George Orwell once wrote about that. But the trend now seems more in line with a book written by a guy named Aldous Huxley. This writer penned something called Brave New World. It's different from Orwell's dystopia because we, the masses, will gladly accept our slavery. As they say in the tech world, we will opt in. Here's a snippet from the book. A really efficient totalitarian state would be one in which the all-powerful executive of political bosses and their army of managers control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. We mention this because this is what conspiracy theorists are relating to when they talk about the New World Order and the elites that will rule over us. We need to be controlled, either through force and surveillance, a good amount of public relations, or technological applications that distract us from how fudged things have become. These elites are a multinational group, according to the conspiracy theorists. There is no national superpower, it's a collaborative effort. In fact, the us versus them dichotomy is just a distraction, so these elites can keep us in a constant state of stress, making us easier to control and harming our immune systems because our stress hormones fire up every time we go online. Okay, so who are these elite groups? We'll now introduce you to the Illuminati. The origins of the so-called present Illuminati comes from an entity known as the Bavarian Illuminati. This was founded by a professor in Bavaria in the 1800s. His name was Adam Weishaupt. And by the way, the actual word Illuminati comes from the Latin for revealed or enlightened. Did Weishaupt want to take over the world? Well, it doesn't seem so. He did indeed embrace the idea of secret societies. In his own words, he said that members of his Illuminati should endorse freedom from all religious prejudices. He also said his Illuminati cultivates the social virtues and animates them by a great, a feasible, and speedy prospect of universal happiness. Note the word universal. His secret society was supposed to make everyone happy, but the public weren't contacted about this. The general population was not intelligent enough to get in on the act of creating universal happiness. Getting into this society was similar to getting into the Freemasons. You need to have cash and some connections, although women, monks, Jews, and pagans were not allowed to join. Like the Freemasons, once you were in, you could climb the ranks. There were lots of ranks, and the highest rank was king. It was all very secret indeed, and members didn't even use their own names. When they communicated in writing, they used ciphers that most people wouldn't be able to solve. They had to write a lot, since the Illuminati had members all over Europe. The idea was that these people would increase their power but at the same time endorse enlightened ideas. This kind of enlightened absolutism was once summed up like this: everything for the people, nothing by the people. You might call that the trickle-down happiness theory. It's not far from the principles that Edward Bernays espoused, in that we, the masses, don't know what's good for us and need to be controlled with tools such as public relations and the media. Bavaria later banned this group, and it's thought that that was the end of the Illuminati. Or was it? Now for your introduction to the Bilderberg Group. Okay, so this group is not hidden in some respects, in that you can go to the Bilderberg's website and read about what they do, or what they claim to do. According to those people who believe something sinister lurks in the air when these people get together. They meet every year to discuss certain issues that face Europe and North America. The group says they only talk about the issues and no actions are taken after meetings. It's like a get-together for powerful people, they say. But there are no resolutions at the end. Which powerful people, you might ask? The list is long, so we can't mention everyone who turned up to the 2019 meeting. The attendees were mostly wealthy business people, bankers, and people high up in certain government departments. Some meetings have also included royalty. Quite a few academics were on the guest list too, such as the guy who's been warning us about super artificial intelligence, the director of the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford University named Nick Bostrom. The governor of the Bank of England was there, as was a politician from the UK's Green Party. People who work for the US Office of the Secretary of Defense were also in the House, as were journalists and editors who work for well-known media, such as the Washington Post. Also in attendance were some of the CEOs of the world's biggest tech companies. So yes, if you were of a certain disposition to believe that a group wanted to control the populace, the herd, these would be the people who could do it. The attendees do in fact already control countries, since they head finance, government, and industry. They control the media, and they control how information gets to us via the internet. That's not a conspiracy theory though. Okay, so what did those powerful people talk about at the last meeting? Did they, say, discuss how to create a panic on a mass scale in order to convince the people of the world to opt in to mass surveillance technology? Did they discuss mass unemployment that could lead to political changes, lifelong debt, and possibly some population reduction? The answer is no. Here's a list of the discussion topics. Number 1, a stable strategic order. 2, what next for Europe? 3, climate change and sustainability. 4, China. 5, Russia. 6, the future of capitalism. 7, Brexit. 8, the ethics of artificial intelligence. 9, the weaponization of social media. 10, the importance of space. And 11, cyber threats. This was no secret. It was published by the Bilderberg Group on its website. But, and this is a big but, what happens at the Bilderberg meetings stays at the Bilderberg meetings. It's also not a conspiracy theory. The New York Times wrote in 2019 that the members heading to the 67th Bilderberg meeting in Switzerland had to promise that whatever was discussed would not get leaked. So just how good are those attendees at keeping their secrets? We wonder what happened when Secretary of State Mike Pompeo or Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella or Jared Kushner got home after the meeting. Was the scene similar to this? Hey darling, how'd it go? Reply, you know I can't talk about it, honey. The first meeting was held in 1954 at the Hotel de Bilderberg in the Netherlands. And since then, some people have been decrying the event because they think those people already have too much power. The group itself says it's working for the greater good, but not everyone agrees with that. Some people have said these powerful people are secret kingmakers, while others have said they are globalists and have one mutual interest, and that is to create a new world order with them at the helm. Such wild theories, said the Bilderberg Group, are baseless. It actually says this on its own website. While these claims lack any and all merit, we regret to say that many continue to flourish online and in social media groups. The group states that journalists cannot report what goes down in their meetings, and only the attendees on the guest list can go. That means no personal assistants, no husbands or wives, no bodyguards, no Secret Service protectors, and guests should not talk to journalists after the meeting. The reason why things are kept secret, says the group, is to encourage the highest level of openness and dialogue. One man that wrote a book about the Bilderberg Group said as much, stating that these immensely powerful people can say things that they would never dare utter in public. He called the group a shadow world government. It certainly is the most exclusive club the world has ever seen, and it is very secretive. The proof of that is the fact that you know nothing about possibly the biggest event in the world that takes place every year. The acclaimed writer Jon Ronson, who wrote and directed the documentary The Secret Rulers of the World, actually once tried to infiltrate a meeting but was eventually chased out by men wearing dark glasses. He later said in an interview, "When I phoned the British Embassy and asked them to explain to the powerful secret society that had set their goons on me that I was essentially a humorous journalist out of my depth, I wasn't being funny. I was being genuinely desperate." Ronson actually once got to interview Dennis Healy, a man who'd been on the Bilderberg steering committee for 30 years. Healy told him that the guests just state what is on their minds, things perhaps the public might not want to hear. They can speak candidly about various issues and won't get outed in the press for their words. Healy also said this: "To say we're striving for a one-world government is exaggerated, but not wholly unfair." He admitted that it was about control, but control in regard to making the world a better place. It's about global policy, he said, but critics might say that these people are there in part to serve their own interests. That's why some critics will say it's about everything from the people, nothing for the people. They might ask why these powerful people have not fixed pervasive poverty or tackled many other issues that help the man in the street. Is the Bilderberg ethos a kind of enlightened absolutism, meaning we know what's best for you, but it's not something you need to know? When Healy was asked if going to the meetings will help a person's career, he answered, "Your new understanding of the world will certainly help your career." Now we can go back to that word Illuminati, which, remember, means revealed or enlightened. There is no proof that an Illuminati exists, but it would be hard to argue that guests at the Bilderberg meetings aren't revealing secrets and attempting to enlighten others and be enlightened. The Illuminati is a ghoul, a kind of boogeyman, a made-up entity that leads people down endless rabbit holes on the internet. But the Bilderberg Group is very real, and you could say it's a modern iteration of the Bavarian Illuminati. The Bilderberg Group is the Illuminati. How's that for a Scooby-Doo ending? Enlightened is not a bad word, far from it. And we can all be glad for the European Enlightenment and the fact that we no longer kill witches or imprison people for saying the earth revolves around the sun. But it's the secrecy of the Bilderberg Group that causes all the controversy. If indeed they are only trying to fix the world, then why should these meetings be kept so secret? Surely if the truth they speak is for the common good, we need to hear it. Or do they think the common man, the sheep among the herd, can't handle the truth? These attendees might not want to do nefarious things like depopulate the planet. But you might ask if all those apparently saintly attendees do have self-interest in mind. Maybe one day we'll find out. Now you really have to watch this video, The Origin of Evil, the Devil, or go watch this video.
Anyway, well, that was a Scooby-Doo moment for sure.
Yep, especially on my side here. Sorry about that screw up at the beginning there.
Well, it looked like
I had
all the videos had started playing at the same time.
What happened? I started one and I figured out it wasn't the right one. So I flipped to the one next to it, and that wasn't the right one. And then I finally saw the one we were supposed to be playing.
That's all right.
It was Gremlins got into it.
That's right. Well, the whole thing was, I think, laid out.
I think I want to do a disclaimer here, just so that everybody is clear what we're trying to do. When I look at these kind of shows, I think to myself, there is a lot of information to take in here. We're not trying to take and sway you either way. We just want to open your mind to what's out there. And, shows like this have that tendency to, you may not believe everything. In fact, you probably won't. Because I know I don't believe a large part of the stuff that's in this. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to question it and be open to the possibility that it could be. The Illuminati is a huge subject. I'm going to put that out here right now. My intent, or our intent on this show now, is to, starting with this one, this will probably become a small series in this show. It won't be every week. Don't worry about that. But there will be other shows to follow this on this subject. Just so everything is clear there. I think you're in for a good time, especially if you carry an open mind. How about that, Beth?
I think that was excellent, Pat. Just building on what Pat said, just think in your mind, it's a helicopter view. We're just giving you the view, high level helicopter view, down and not getting down into the weeds. We'll reserve that for the series that will spin off of the Lore Hunters.
Precisely.
What do you think?
I think the series will be more or less just a show here and there. That yes. we may end up making it a series, but for right now, it'll just be. This topic is going to come up more than once in this show. I can see that happening now.
Most definitely.
Just from what you sent me over the last couple of days, there's a lot there.
And I just was pick and choosing. I had no idea what I was watching and how in depth.
And one of the parts that we didn't come anywhere close to covering yet, is Hollywood's involvement in a lot of this.
Well, and the singers, all the rap singers,
exactly.
And I'm sorry to say, but even Celine Dion. So, and I really like her, so I didn't want her to be part of this. I really didn't want her to be, but she is. So, it's, Hollywood and the music industry is just entrenched. And, I think
it's like I told Ellie, and I've been chatting back and forth on text. She said she had somebody that was at one of their reunions that was supposed to be, let me see how she phrased it. One of my classmates that came to our last lunch said he was high up in the Masons. My response to her was, you'll look at him a whole lot differently once we get done.
That's true. Well, my brother-in-law was a 33 degree Mason in Texas. So he was really high up. He was part of the Knights Templar and the Shriners. So he was entrenched, and needless to say, he does not go anymore. So anyways, the hope here is that we don't touch any sore subjects for you, or we'd sure hate to set off our government. I would like to not be suicided. So
I don't think so.
The NSA can definitely look in, with all the technology and everything that has cameras, they can see more than what we think. So, and I don't know what I'm worried about, because even in my books, I don't really point the finger, but I do in a roundabout way of the U.S. government. But I try to preface it by saying U.S. mercenaries. And there's a couple times I've said U.S. president, but, I try to be diplomatic about it. So,
fiction.
And then offer
fiction.
You all
That's what
angles.
it is fiction, believe
It's
it
fiction,
or not.
historic fiction. So we take some history, but spin, fiction around it.
Believe it or not.
But believe it or not, well, it's definitely like Woodrow Wilson when he had his stroke, and his wife was running things, but she just said she was public relations, right? No,
Yep.
she wasn't.
That's right.
She was running everything. So, what can you say? sounds familiar. That's all I can say. And that's all I'll say for that. But at any rate, so we have another little, which one do we have next, Panic?
That's the Bilderberg's Decoded.
Yeah, let's do that one. That's real interesting. This probably is the one I like the most that we picked out.
All right, let's do that. You're listening to the radio. Jesus Christ, I gotta quit that. You're listening to the Tales of the Lore Hunters on Crooked River Radio. We'll be right back.
About a democracy that isn't there.
People want to know what's going on, what we're talking about.
Who are the Bilderberg Group? And why do they meet every year? What do they talk about? And why the secrecy? Do they intend to rule the world?
So over there, the world's power elite are gathering.
We all talk about a democracy that isn't there.
People want to know what's going on, what we're talking about.
A global tyranny that would have made George Orwell wince.
Crashed into one of the towers.
Why is it that for years it was even denied the Bilderberg Group even existed?
There are splits among the people who run modern capitalist societies, and so they have meetings.
Is the Bilderberg Group the true elite that rules the world? Do they manipulate presidents and economies to their advantage and manipulate us to believe that we have a voice and a choice?
By the time I was born, both my grandfathers had died already, but I heard many stories about them. What I gathered from these stories is that I must believe in myself and have principles, and that many times an idea can be more important than one's self. I did believe in myself, and when I moved from the world of economics to the world of theater, I witnessed that dedicated group effort in theater troupes is what makes an idea succeed. I also learned that even though I may sometimes be romantic, I always reject any form of injustice. It is not strange that we hear of individuals forming groups with the intention to hold power and rise above the people and democracy.
Bilderberg Group.
Bilderberg.
The Bilderberg Group.
But there is one group which many people believe is the board of directors of the world, the Bilderberg Group. Who are these people?
The billionaires, politicians, bankers, and European royalty.
So over there, the world's power elite are gathering. People want to know what's going on, what we're talking about.
If we cross that police tape, we'll be arrested.
For me, what is said about the extra secrecy of the group raises questions. What are they trying to hide, if they are hiding anything? But even with their strict confidentiality, we may know a few things. We know, for instance, that the Bilderberg meetings were initiated by Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands in 1954 in the Bilderberg Hotel in Holland. The meeting takes place every year in a different place. We may also know the general topics discussed in the meetings, and it says in the website of the group that participants can use any information they received in the meetings without revealing the names of the speakers or participants. David Icke is a British journalist and a famous conspiracy theorist who has researched the Bilderberg Group and wrote more than 20 books.
Can you tell me about when the Bilderberg Group first met and for what exactly?
The Bilderberg Group first met in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. To understand the timing of the creation of the Bilderberg Group is to understand what World War II was really about. Wars are used to transform a society. The status quo was gone, and you create another. And in the aftermath of World War II, that's when the status quo was transformed into a world structure. That's when globalization really started to take off. And in there is the Bilderberg Group in 1954, which was a part of this coordination strategy between different countries to create this common push in a desired direction. This is a classic organization drawing together prominent and influential people in all areas of human life. Politicians, some journalists who have a golden rule: you don't report what happened at the Bilderberg meeting. These are military people, intelligence people, many heads of major global corporations. And what the Bilderberg Group is a way of bringing these people together to form a common policy. And many of the people, most of the people that turn up have no idea what the big goal is. And a lot of these people come and go, and are never seen again. They're just useful in a short space of time. But then you have others like David Rockefeller, who has been involved in the Bilderberg Group from the start. Henry Kissinger, the same. These people span the whole period of the group's existence.
Couldn't we say that they were or are just some sort of a lobby group that are protecting their interest?
A lobby group for what is the question I would have. This is not a lobby group for a certain company, even a lobby group for a certain government. Why is it that for years it was even denied the Bilderberg Group even existed? They are a global elite which work to push human society into the direction of a global tyranny that would have made George Orwell wince.
What are you thinking about? We can't just keep blaming everyone else for everything wrong that's happening in the world. We blame others when we feel powerless. The question is, maybe they're not a secret society and they're just a private one.
From what is written about the group, it seems they are indeed impressive in their breadth and power. But there are other powerful groups that meet regularly, like the G7 and the G20. The major difference here is that those meetings are not secret. If the Bilderberg Group is indeed the shadow world government, well, they are doing a terrible job. Or maybe they are getting exactly what they want. And is it really true that after they discuss something in their agenda, then we see surprising effects in the real world? There are people that find it difficult to believe that the oil shock of 1973 could have been masterminded by the Bilderberg Group, as many claim. For starters, the United States Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, had not attended that year. But at the press conference of the following Bilderberg meeting in 1974, the declarations of Prince Bernhard could raise some questions.
L'année dernière, le thème, c'était la possible crise d'énergie. Sans savoir, nous étions des petits prophètes et la crise d'énergie est venue beaucoup plus vite que tout le monde des participants ont pensé.
I want to ask the American economist Dr. Richard D. Wolff about the relation between democracy, capital, and the Bilderberg Group.
I wanted to talk to you about the Bilderberg Group. Why do you think these people meet regularly?
There are splits and disagreements among the people who run modern capitalist societies. And one of the big issues they disagree about is whether or not they really can rely on the capitalist system and the market to manage modern society in a way that allows them to keep their dominant position, their wealth, their influence, and so on. There are those who believe that the market is a fantastic institution, that if each corporation does exactly what is most profitable for it, this will work out to be the best possible society for everyone. Then there are other corporate leaders who say that the levels of inequality common to capitalist societies create severe vulnerability, that you are going to make the mass of people who have middle or low income eventually decide to use their political power, they are the majority, to use politics to undo the results of a capitalist private economic market system. And that therefore you must take steps to deal with that. Notice, everybody's agreed among them that what they want is capitalism to continue. The people to run the corporations continue. But one group doesn't want to worry about taking care of social problems, and the other group does. And so they have meetings because these disagreements can become explosive.
Do you think this group uses their capital to overcome democracy and the will of the people?
They have no interest in democracy. They never did. And let me explain why. Every one of these people, they operate their enterprises in a fundamentally anti-democratic way. For example, the board of directors does not submit its proposals or its strategies to the entire employees to get their approval. That would be a democratic way to run an enterprise. They don't do that. What the enterprise is in capitalism is a systematic training of the population against democracy. If you spend 5 days a week, 9 to 5, at your factory or in your office, you are in an environment that teaches you to accept orders from whoever is above you in the hierarchy. There is no democratic control. We all talk about a democracy that isn't there. And partly the talk is a compensation because it isn't the reality. 300 years ago, we got rid of kings, but the kings didn't go away. They were clever. They went inside the capitalist corporation and they changed their name. It's now CEO.
Would you say that these kind of groups are think tanks, or they're rather the biggest capitalist lobby ever?
I prefer the lobby because thinking is not their strong suit. What they do is they hire people to do the thinking for them. I went to all the elite schools in this country. I know all these people. They're managers. That's what they've been trained to do, to manage, to identify who they can rely on, who has technical knowledge of this or that. So they bring people like me, a critic of the system. They want to know how people like me look at all of this. And I always have an ambivalent feeling, wondering to myself, who am I helping here? You know, these are not my people, you know.
We are laughing, but it actually feels hopeless. Do you think there is any way around this?
In the heyday, when these systems are powerful, they are powerful because they have persuaded the mass of people that it must be this way.
From the first time I heard stories about my grandfathers, I had a heroic and maybe naive view of the world. As I grew up and learned more, that challenge was to keep the flame inside me alive. To believe that I can be part of the change. It is tempting to believe that we have no power, that our votes don't matter, that our protests don't matter. I believe they only matter if we ask the right questions.
Was a great piece, Pat.
Yep.
And I like the perspective he took in that. You know, just the words Henry Kissinger made me cringe.
You have to take, in some aspect in your mind, you can actually apply this to a lot of stuff that's going on today.
Yes.
And some of it is absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. You know, as far as, now mind you, I will not talk politics. That's not happening. Right. But you can apply a lot of this to the politics. You can't help yourself. And you have to wonder if that's the way things are being run.
Exactly. I mean, when he was talking, the first thing that came to my mind was the pharmaceutical companies and the CEOs and the board of directors. You know, they don't care that insulin is $980 for a pen, an insulin pen. And how would an elderly person on Medicare ever pay for that? They don't care. They're the CEOs. They're money driven. So that's where my mind went as he was talking. So I don't know. It's scary. You know, it's scary what they're talking about.
Yeah, you just have to wonder who the hell. Let me put this thought in your head. As far as the pharma, what if when you go to heaven, whatever, wherever we end up after this life, what would you think if you found out that they actually had a cure for cancer and refused to release it?
I believe in the depths of my soul they have cures for a lot of things.
I know. I'm sure of that too.
It's about the money.
It's all money.
Money and power.
What's that old saying? Money's the root of all evil.
Yep. And then on the flip side, we have folks that are technology people that are meddling into medicine and, trying is big on eugenics. So I'm not mentioning any person in particular, just that there are eugenics programs being run against us, the population. And I'll just segue into the Guidestones, the Georgia Guidestones. On those pillars, they wanted to depopulate the world to only have 500 million across the world. So, we know COVID was manufactured. We know a lot of stuff was manufactured and let go on the population. And experimental things are going on in Africa with technology turned to pharmaceuticals. So I don't know. We're certainly at a precarious time in this world, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. Did you want to run this last Brad Milford first minute?
Yeah, we do that one, definitely.
Okay. She started talking about the Georgia thing. I wanted to make sure we're still running it. So you want to do that now?
Yeah, let's just jump to Brad Mulford, definitely.
All right, we're only going to do a minute of this, so this is just kind of setting the pace for the rest of this series. We'll be right back.
Its true purpose. In fact, other than their $500,000. What if I told you that America has its own Stonehenge? These giant stones suddenly appeared on a hillside outside of all places Atlanta in 1980. The man who had them built remains anonymous, as does the monument's true purpose. In fact, other than their $500,000 price tag, almost nothing is known about the stones at all. They're composed of 107 tons of solid granite, and they have coded messages that are engraved into them in the world's 8 most commonly spoken languages. These rectangular pillars are also precisely crafted to track astrological and solar cycles. There are some that interpret the messages here as a sign of the end of days. Others theorize that they're a call for genocide on a massive scale. Whatever their message is, I want to know who built them, why they're located on a remote hillside in Georgia, and what they really mean. I'm Brad Meltzer. I've spent my life collecting stories. The best include signs, symbols, and codes, secret meanings that are hidden in plain sight. Some have become the basis for my novels, but I've only scratched the surface of what's out there. And now, history has given me the resources to investigate the rest. This is
I love Brad Meltzer. He is a fabulous author, and his show is it. I was sorry when they took that show off. So, but he's right. It's in the middle of nowhere. His team actually went to the person who was the project manager for those guide stones being placed there, and they tried to get him to tell who contracted for that, and he took it to his grave. He wouldn't tell them, so no one knows who it was. Brad Meltzer speculates that it was the Hare Krishna folks, but I don't think so. I think it was obviously someone who had an agenda, and it didn't appear till 1980, which Bilderberg Group had been in power, if you will, since 1953. So I say it was the Bilderberg Group setting expectations of what was going to be. So I don't know how you feel about that, Pat, but that's my thought process.
Could be the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
I've been thinking that for several years.
Yeah. Well, and then obviously most people have heard that some person decided he was going to blow up those stones. And of course, if you didn't, we have a clip of that where the person, blew it partially up. It wasn't enough to take down all the stones, just the main stone. And then the stupid idiot drove off like NSA couldn't get his car number, please. So, and we have not heard if that person is in custody yet. So I guess the NSA won't tell us.
Or even if he's still alive.
Yeah, exactly. So now they went back in and decided to take down all the stones and blew them all down. But they were in search of a capsule that was supposedly placed underneath the hinge. So, but when they dug, they did not find that. Well, they're telling us they did not find that capsule.
Wink,
that
wink.
They were
we didn't find
for.
that. Wink,
wink, wink. Yeah. So I just think that this person was set up to do this because there was something important on that capsule or in that capsule that they needed. Yeah. So this was their cover story, if you will, to get what they needed, the end result. What to say? I just, Boy.
Let's look at the explosion. I'm ready for that.
Yeah, let's look at it. Now, we know that NSA, definitely, if we can figure it out, so can they.
All right, you're listening to Tales of the Lore Hunters on Crooked River. We'll be right back.
Kids here occasionally, been back a million times. Never thought I'd see it like this.
What started with a bang?
I probably live like 3 or 4 miles out of town, so I did hear it at my house. The power did flicker off for a few minutes, so I'm not sure if it was because of the explosion or what, but I did hear it.
Later became something that shook a community. Rebecca Brooks was driving past the Guidestones on her way into town and ran into her cousin, who was a first responder.
I kind of rolled my window down and yelled at him, and he was like, something's happened at the Guidestones.
GBI officials say unknown people detonated the explosion that damaged part of the structure around 4 a.m. Take a look at this video, released just hours ago, of a suspect vehicle seen leaving the scene shortly after the blast. The investigation is active and ongoing. Residents say the landmark helped put the town on the map.
I think they said they bring out 20,000 people a year to Elberton. And it's a small town. We don't have a lot of stuff bringing people here. And then for somebody to just, blow it up or try to blow it up, it's awful.
Lee Robinson even stopped by to see it for himself.
It was a landmark. I mean, it's like you see it every day. It's something you go past. It's like you've come to know it and feel like it's a part of you, and now it's not there anymore.
Now, if you have any information, you're asked to call the GBI Athens office at 706-552-2309 or the Elbert County Sheriff's Office at 706-283-2421. In Elberton, Carlos Flores, WYFF News 4.
I tell you, it gets stranger and stranger as we're moving along this year. So you never know what's going to happen next. That's for sure.
We want to thank everybody that whose videos we've played today. That I should have written these down. That was Channel 4 in Georgia there. Thank you for posting that clip so that we had ability to use it on our podcast.
Right. Thank you so much. And we have a favor. Well, I have a favor. I'm sure Pat will feel the same. If you would hit the like button and then also share it, that's what helps get the word out about the Lore Hunters. So we would appreciate that if you could just take a second to hit like, and it takes.
And if you find us,
share it
if you find our podcasts on Spreaker, there's a like and share button there. We're on pretty much all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Amazon, you name it, we're there. If you get a chance and you find us there, give us a like. If you have a comment, leave it there. It will filter over through to us, and give us a like and a comment. We'd love to know you're out there.
Right, we'd like to hear we'd love to hear from you, what you want to see next, what cryptid is your favorite, and so we can walk down that path and give you more information that we find. I think we might do mermaids next week. What do you think, Pat?
I was thinking about either that or what we talked about, the ESP thing.
Oh, yes.
The ESP
the
thing
third
would be cool.
eye.
It's up to you, though. Yeah,
we can do the third eye. That's
you're the one. You're the main here. I just come along for the ride.
Oh, he's not. Don't listen to that. I love research, so I don't mind researching topics, but I happen to know a lot about the third eye because in my books, I talk about that nonstop. I call it in my books the sixth sense. So, some people have a gift of an empath too. So, I think what we talked about yesterday was probably a hybrid mix of being an empath and just having that sixth sense. So,
as I was coming home last night,
we'll definitely do that next week.
As I was coming home last night, I was talking to the wife, and what had happened. Beth and I had went out to this place in Akron for dinner with my wife and a close friend of ours from high school, and we were talking about, we get on the subject of, did you ever get to have that feeling, or did something ever talk to you and let you know it was going to happen? Well, my mind, the way it works, on the way home, I'm thinking, what can we use as a title for that show? How about, did you ever get the feeling?
I like that. That's what we should do.
That'll be the title for next week's show.
Okay. It will be good. There is a ton of stuff out there, and it's not just humans that have that. I want to emphasize that a lot of animals have that too, that intuition. So we'll talk about some four-legged friends as well as us two-legged humans.
We got about 10 minutes left. Where we're going to go?
Okay, so let's circle back and do that family. The
family.
The one where they're at the
family.
The one that where
secretly rules.
Yes.
We can do that. That'll be a good end. Then we'll come back and talk for a minute, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
All right, you're listening to the and probably watching the Tales of the Lore Hunter on Crooked River Radio. We'll be right back after this.
Money, power, and influence aren't exactly very easy to come by. Believe me, it takes time, effort, and a healthy amount of under-the-table dealings to achieve these things. Or if you're lucky enough, you'll be born into a family that already has. Over the centuries, these particular families have managed to accumulate insane amounts of money, power, and influence, subsequently using it to place themselves in very convenient and important parts of society. These families are so powerful, they've basically won the economic game and done a tiny bit of shaping society to their whims. These are some of the most powerful families in the world. Rothschild family. If you know anything about conspiracy theories, then you've certainly heard about the Rothschilds, from the wildest to the most plausible. One way or the other, the Rothschilds had something to do with it. I mean, if the first page of Google is to be believed, the Rothschilds have done everything from controlling every central bank in the world to even controlling the weather, with an insane combined net worth of $400 billion. Who are the Rothschilds really? Alien emissaries? Or just some incredibly rich people? Well, what they are is an international banking and finance dynasty of German descent. They rose to international prominence in the early 18th century and subsequently established operations all across Europe. They were even elevated to nobility by the Austrian government. So yes, they are just incredibly wealthy. But you probably guessed that. The Rothschilds' historical rise to power started with Meyer Rothschild, whose keen talent for finance eventually led him to become a prominent member of the global banking industry and installed his 5 sons in the financial capitals of Europe. They successfully adapted to the Industrial Revolution during a rise in economic growth throughout Europe, landing themselves an oligopolistic position in the world trade of oil and metals. The Rothschilds were so powerful they could loan money to entire countries. Their clientele wasn't your everyday wealthy lord. Nope, they were out there loaning billions to entire governments. In 1825, they supplied enough coin to the Bank of England to avert a market liquidity crisis. They granted loans to France after its defeat by Prussia, and they granted a £4 million loan to the British government after just being asked a few hours prior. They were, simply put, just rolling in that money. These days, the family has taken a more low-key approach to being a financial superpower, while spending their wealth by donating vast quantities of art to charity and generally avoiding conspicuous displays of wealth, especially after their surrealist party back in the 70s that'll haunt my dreams forever. The Rothschild family are without a doubt extremely powerful, influential, and cloaked in mystery, hence all the conspiracy theories. But whether or not they are responsible for the assassination of JFK or are fighting against climate change is for the conspiracy theorists to decide. The Windsor family. Quite possibly one of the most popular and most influential groups of royals in the entire world, with family branches that have stretched all across Europe and influence that quite literally stretches the entire globe. If that doesn't make you want to find your own Windsor heir to marry, wait till you find out just how wealthy the latest generation of British royalty is. Prince William and Kate Middleton's 3 kids, George, Charlotte, and Louis, aren't just living a life of unparalleled luxury. They're making bank, too. Prince George is already worth $2.8 billion, and his sister Charlotte is worth $4.3 billion. They're already making 10 digits, and neither of them is 10. Simply mind-blowing. The Windsors aren't just sitting at the top of a country with a GDP of $2.7 trillion. Their influence spreads far beyond Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England, reaching every continent on Earth. Yes, including Antarctica. Some of these countries include the South Pacific island of Tanna, where the Duke of Edinburgh was considered a literal god, and Canada, where the portrait of Queen Elizabeth is featured on their $20 bill. That might sound a little strange to you, but did you know Queen Elizabeth technically owns 1/6 of the Earth's land? Of course she's gonna show up on a few bills. The Queen is technically the largest landlord in the entire world, owning more than 6 billion acres of land, and is technically the head of state of 16 countries. These countries are part of what's known as the Commonwealth realm, and are some of the wealthiest places in the world, like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, which would technically make the Windsor family worth an estimated $25 trillion. Now that is a lot of power. The Windsors might be running a constitutional monarchy these days, but that doesn't diminish just how influential they are. I mean, people have actual tattoos of the royal family on them. I'm talking about permanent drawings of Queen Elizabeth on their bodies. You can only wish you were that popular. And what's popularity if you can't back it up with ridiculous amounts of wealth? The Windsors sure can. They own several castles, mansions, and estates, all of which are incredibly expensive, and they didn't even need to buy most of them. There's also the Royal Collection, an art collection owned by the British royal family, which is one of the largest art collections in the world, with over 7,000 paintings, 40,000 watercolors and drawings, and about 150,000 old master prints. They've got historical photographs, tapestries, and the crown jewels worth $4 billion. Pretty much everything you could consider art can be found in this collection. Some of the Windsor's luxurious royal holdings include Kensington Palace, which has an estimated worth of $630 million, and Buckingham Palace, which is worth $4.9 billion, one of the most expensive and popular buildings in the world, and they just casually live in it. Koch family. What do you get when you mix oil money, time, and a healthy bit of generational wealth? Well, you get the Koch family, a dynasty of oil billionaires that have shaped both the economic and political landscape of the United States. With a current net worth of $100 billion, the Koch family started their rise to power with a company that had a mouthful for a name. It was originally called the Wood River Oil and Refining Company, until it was thankfully renamed to Koch Industries in honor of Fred Koch, one of its earliest members. It was run by his two sons, David and Charles Koch, affectionately referred to as the Koch brothers, after which millions upon millions of Coca-Cola jokes were made. That is until David passed away in 2018 at the age of 79. Now, to give you an idea of why the Koch family is on this list, please note, Koch Industries is currently the second largest privately owned company in the United States, and currently the sixth largest in the entire world, raking in a yearly revenue of $115 billion. Oh, but Koch Industries isn't just rich, it's prolific as well. They've acquired so many companies and have so many subsidiaries. They effectively do everything now, and I'm not even exaggerating. These acquisitions were incredibly smart as well. Some of them include the $22.5 billion purchase of Georgia Pacific, one of the world's largest manufacturers and distributors of paper. They provide a wide variety of household products under popular names like Brawny, Angelsoft, and Vanity Fair. They also spent $7.5 billion to purchase Molex, an electronic components manufacturer, and they work with the National Guard of the United States as well. That's paper, electricity, and protection. Whatever kind of apocalypse is coming, the Koch family is ready. Not only are they wealthy, they also invest a non-significant amount of their wealth into making sure the political landscape of the country is exactly the way they want it. It turns out, you don't have to be royalty, or hold any political office for that matter, to get a few politicians to speak your language. If there's one thing the Koch family is really passionate about though, it's real estate. They purchased a multi-billion-dollar, 63-story, 4,000-unit hotel and casino on the Las Vegas Strip, and that was just the start. They plan to buy more hotels and hospitality assets. At this point, they're just trying to fill a bingo card of industries they can take over, I think. The Walton family. Here's a family so powerful, they have an insane net worth of $169.7 billion and own a corporation so massive, it has a net worth larger than some countries' GDP. Yet nobody really talks about them. You know what a Walmart is? I know what a Walmart is. We've all seen the memes. But did you know that there are approximately 10,500 Walmart stores in 24 countries worldwide, which employ about 2.2 million people? Well, I certainly didn't. Walmart was founded by Sam Walton in 1962. Over the years, it eventually grew into the world's largest company by revenue, earning over $540 billion, consequently turning the Waltons into the richest family in the United States. Let me tell you, Walmart is so powerful, its very existence in a community is enough to destroy whatever competition stands in its way. If a Walmart opens up in a small town, about half its retail trade will be gone in a few years, fell to the feet of this retail giant. Naturally, Walmart's customer size is frankly ridiculous. Thanks to its low prices and wide range of products, it appeals to virtually everybody and serves approximately 220 million customers every week. The Waltons have had more than one successful venture though. You don't get over $100 billion by being a one-trick pony after all. One of these ventures was known as Sam's Club, a chain of warehouse clubs that sold groceries and general merchandise. It operated 600 warehouses and raked in profits up to $57 billion. Even their charitable foundations are a hit. The Walton Family Foundation has managed to take on environmental issues and education, spending $1 billion on the latter. The Waltons have used their vast wealth to dabble in a bit of politics as well. The political leanings of the Waltons aren't exactly one note though. Different heirs to the Walmart throne have paid large sums of money to different sides of the political aisle, trying their darndest to influence policies, like a really boring season of The West Wing. Morgan family. This family's rise to international prominence started in the late 19th century with perhaps the most famous Morgan of them all, John Pierpont Morgan. That guy in all the documentaries about early industrializing America? Born to be a banker, J.P. Morgan would follow in his father's footsteps and get embroiled in the financial sector, becoming one of the most famous bankers in the world, eventually immortalized by one of the most powerful financial institutions in the United States, J.P. Morgan and Company. J.P. Morgan didn't build the first billion-dollar company by banking alone, though. In the late 1890s, he turned his attention to the steel industry. He developed an alliance with the president of Carnegie Steel and purchased the company for $480 million, an amount which, at the time, was more than the U.S. federal government's entire budget. You gotta spend money to make money, and boy did he make money. In 1901, J.P. Morgan merged his steel companies and established U.S. Steel, a company worth $1.4 billion, placing him not only at the top of the banking industry, but the railroad industry as well. He also controlled 60% of the steel industry too, for good measure, not to mention the fact that he sat at the board of directors for 48 different companies. This obviously granted the Morgan family immense political and economic sway around the world. J.P. Morgan was part of several illustrious social clubs, where he would meet and rub shoulders with some of the most powerful men in society. He even founded his own club and called it the Metropolitan Club, which had powerful members in it, including the likes of fellow billionaire Cornelius Vanderbilt. Morgan managed to achieve such wealth and influence by being an incredibly savvy and honest businessman. And just kidding, he was the very definition of cutthroat. He bullied, outcompeted, or straight up bought out any competitors. After J.P. Morgan's death in 1913, he left behind what would eventually become the largest bank in the United States, with assets worth $3.7 trillion. It has acquired so many banks over its lifespan that J.P. Morgan & Chase is officially the largest bank in the world by market capitalization. What else could you possibly expect from a family powerful enough to control the U.S. gold supply and organize a syndicate of bankers to stabilize the economy of a whole country? Which family do you think is the most powerful? Conspiracy theories aside. And if you want to know how these billionaire families stay so wealthy, then click on the video on the screen and find out where the richest billionaires hide their money. See you there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Don't get me started on Walmart. Don't get me started on the Waltons.
I won't. I still say it's the royal family that's the most influential in this world. So
Hang on. Sorry about the dog barking there.
That's right.
Before we wrap up, I do want to do a little plugging. So let's bring this up here. Tell us about this.
Yeah, that's my new book. It's coming out today on Amazon. It's called Yellow Feathers, and it's about a Native American, Blue Jacket and Yellow Feather, who are heroes for the Federation, Galactic Federation, with, of course, Morgan, that we went to high school with. He's the president of the Galactic Federation. And they have learned through other planets that Native Americans have been enslaved on 3 different planets. So Blue Jacket and Yellow Feather are on a journey to rescue over 3 million Native Americans on these planets. Of course, you know, the evil people who have enslaved those Native Americans will not take kindly to Morgan and his group trying to rescue them and free them. So it's fast-paced, lots of evil things in this book that they're trying to do to Morgan's group and to Yellow Feather and Blue Jacket of the Shawnee tribe. So, yeah, it's like I said, it'll be out sometime today on Amazon. I don't know when.
And
it just depends on Amazon on how fast they upload it and review it.
How long, or how do people get a hold of this?
Just go to Amazon.com and type in Beth Roose books, and all of my books come up, and you'll see Yellow Feather. Or I think you can just type in Beth Roose books Yellow Feather, and that should take you specifically to that book.
Sweet.
It is. I love it. Blue Jacket should be out in, I'm going to say 3 weeks, because I'm having the cover tweaked just a bit, and I want to make sure I have the right font on that front. And there's a few things on the inside that I want to tweak just a bit. So it'd be about 3 weeks for a Blue Jacket.
I can't wait.
I know it'll be. I love that. The best book I've written, in my opinion, is the White House Code. So I think it's because I channel Brad Meltzer in his code book. So, or Dan Brown in his code book. So I love doing codes.
Sweet. It's been a quick hour. Man,
yeah, it went fast.
Actually, an hour and 7 minutes now. Wow.
Oh, dear. Okay, well.
Anyway, you need to get to work. I need to get to work.
I do.
So let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. You want to
yeah.
call
Thank
it a
you
wrap
for
for us?
joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us today. And hopefully you don't think we're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We have an open mind on all of this. We hope you do too. And we'll let you know when the next show for the Illuminati is. We haven't planned it, but we'll let you know. So please hit the share and like button. We appreciate that. And we'll see you next Sunday when we do our empath and Sixth Sense Third Eye show.
Did you ever get the feeling that was going to happen?
I was waiting for you to cue that in.
Yeah, have a good week.
All right, you too. Thanks, everybody.
This has been a Crooked River Media production.